looking into laws passed this year that are set to go into effect in less than 3 weeks. And for our Vault clip of the week, we're looking back on the day Jeb Bush visited Springdale on the eve of the 1980 presidential election, made quite a prediction. Welcome to the Weekend Wrap here on 5 News Plus. I'm Morgan Wrigley. We begin with a case that has garnered national attention over the past week. Charity Powell-Bialis and her twin children were found shot to death in their home. While investigators still haven't named a suspect or released a manner of death, the Sebastian County Sheriff's Office confirmed this week that both Homeland Security and the Secret Service are now assisting in the case. 5 News reporter Claire Everbach spoke with a local criminology expert to help explain why federal agencies might be involved.
Chris Baker, attorney at Horton Law Firm, says federal government assistance in criminal cases is not uncommon.
I generally feel the federal government gets involved a little more maybe than most people think. From your Amber Alerts to quite certainly any violent crimes, gang activity, drugs.
While circumstances vary, he says most of the time there's a reason they step in.
The federal government kind of needs a what we would call a hook. So usually some sort of involvement to things that cross state lines. So normally banks, phones, or people.
Federal involvement can also expedite how fast a case is solved.
They usually have the ability to process things a little faster, maybe than the Arkansas Crime Lab.
But the biggest help, he says, Homeland Security and Secret Service have more access to telecommunications and can track phone usage and money.
The feds tend to have more access to those devices because some of those warrants may be crossing state lines, they may be dealing with other agencies.
Covering news where you live, Claire Everbach, 5 News.
In that interview, Baker was speaking generally about federal involvement in local cases. He's not connected to the Sebastian County investigation. We also reached out to Homeland Security and the Secret Service, but have not heard back. Now, 5 News was first to report that Charity and her 6-year-old twins were found the day after the final hearing in her divorce case with Dr. Randall Bialis. This week, a new court filing from Charity's adult son aims to finalize that divorce. Bo Russell spoke with him about the steps he's taking to move the case forward.
In the middle of his grief, John Powell says he's holding on to his mother's faith.
Remember her as a good Christian woman that loved her children and loved her family and friends more than anything. But she always put God first, and I'm grateful for that because I know where she is now, in heaven.
Sebastian County investigators say Charity Powell-Bialis and her 2 6-year-old twins were found shot to death inside their Bonanza home on December 3rd. So far, no suspects have been publicly named, and no one has been charged in their killings. John says that uncertainty has left him looking over his shoulder.
So yeah, I'm still fearful for my life as well as a few other people. I'm not going to name them for safety reasons, but they're scared as well.
Court records show John has now gone to court himself, asking a judge to reinstate his mother's divorce case. 5 News shared last week Randy Bialis filed to dismiss the divorce case after Charity's death. Powell says he's leaning on his own attorneys to help navigate that fight.
My legal team has began to help me fight for my mother's justice and this divorce case and stuff. I really can't disclose a lot of information, but my legal team is working on it.
He says the most urgent battle is over where his mother's body will be laid to rest.
Yeah, that's our top priority right now, is to be able to put my mother to rest like she deserves instead of letting someone else get her body and do whatever they want with it. That's our main goal right now.
The Sebastian County Sheriff's Office says it's now working with Arkansas State Police and other local agencies, as well as federal partners like Homeland Security, to piece together what happened. John says knowing federal agents are involved gives him some comfort.
A lot of hope. I'm glad they have looked into it and are taking the time to pursue this case and bring justice for what has happened. I'm very, very grateful.
While investigators continue to execute search warrants and gather evidence, John says he just wants justice for his mother and little siblings. In Sebastian County, I'm Bo Russell, 5 News.
We'll continue following each development in this case and bring you updates as we learn more. Well, Northwest Arkansas is seeing some of the highest immigration enforcement activity in the country. That's according to an Associated Press article stating between January 1st and October 15th of this year, more than 450 people arrested by ICE have been held at the Benton County Jail. 5 News reporter Claire Everbach has been looking into those numbers.
AP News says most of these arrests were made through what's called the 287G program, enforced in all but a handful of U.S. states. Through this program, state and local law enforcement work directly with ICE, allowing them to question people booked into jail about their immigration status. Local immigration attorney Susan Dool says the program has transformed even basic police interactions into immigration checkpoints.
Anytime that they're interacting with police in a 287G memorandum area, including now the state police, it becomes an immigration checkpoint. They're automatically run through the database to determine whether or not an ICE hold is warranted.
Dool says sometimes they arrest people who do not qualify for these holds.
So it's certainly possible that A, these are not legitimate ICE holds, or should not be legitimate ICE holds, and people get detained anyway. Or secondly, these charges are eventually dropped, and so they shouldn't have happened in the first place.
She says what's most concerning, these arrests are making immigrants less likely to trust police.
People don't trust to be able to report crime to the police. That includes victims of domestic violence. They're terrified because if the police are involved, if they're here without status, their spouse is here without status, or somebody in their family is, they're not going to report.
5 News reached out to ICE for comment, and we received this statement. Josh Robinson, Chief Deputy Prosecuting Attorney for Benton County, also sent us a statement saying ICE operations are federal in nature and state-level prosecutors lack authority to deal with such matters, but are always ready to assist on investigations involving state laws.
Claire also reached out to the Benton County Sheriff's Office and the county judge, but did not hear back. One of the floats in last weekend's Lights of the Ozarks parade in Fayetteville faced some backlash online after photos of the Krampus-themed float started spreading on social media. 5 News reporter Lauren Spencer spoke with the person who created that float and says the response has been mixed.
Yeah, Bo Counts owns Pinpoint, a pinball and cocktail bar on the square that transforms into a full Christmas bar every holiday season. He says he celebrated Krampus at Pinpoint for years and thought this parade was a chance to share a European folklore tradition with the community, but he wasn't expecting the level of backlash that followed.
I just wanted to be a fun evening for families and downtown. It has spiraled into something that has been a very stressful series of events.
The non-traditional and some may say spooky holiday characters are what brought Bo Counts to finally like Christmas in the first place.
I fell in love with Krampus when I was like 18, visiting Germany for the first time.
So this year he brought the centuries-old counterpart to St. Nicholas, who deals with the naughty list, into the Lights of the Ozarks parade.
During the parade, we were getting cheers from the children and hearing small kids go, "Look, Mom, it's Krampus," and hearing parents go, "Oh, what is that evil Santa?" and the kids correct them.
But the next morning, Counts says some of his photos and videos were shared out of context across social media. Some called the float demonic and complained they didn't give any notice to families with kids, saying, quote, "A Christmas parade is meant to be safe and happy for all."
I want everybody to be able to celebrate the way they celebrate Christmas here at Pinpoint. If you just take a look around, there's so many different flavors of Christmas here, and I think that it's important to open your mind to new ones.
For us, we were actually pretty excited because it adds a German holiday tradition and something kind of new and flavorful and exciting.
Experience Fayetteville puts on the parade, and CEO Ryan Houck says the feedback has been mixed.
We've seen a lot of support. We've also seen a lot of people say that it wasn't their favorite thing that they saw in the parade. It might be something for us to think about where we make it part of a different event.
Counts says his goal was never to offend, but to share a different piece of holiday tradition.
Be able to find a place and give a place that's safe and welcoming to these people that feel alone or outcasted during a holiday season, I think that makes that character even more important.
Counts says he'd love to grow the Krampus celebration in the future, but only if the community wants it. He says it would take participation and support and doesn't want to do anything that upsets people. And Houck says moving forward, Experience Fayetteville plans to gather feedback from stakeholders and the community to help shape fundraiser or future events like this. Lauren Spencer, 5 News.
All right, when we come back from break, we'll look into reports of a Huntsville student being hit by a car while getting off the bus. That story and more when we come back. Welcome back to the Weekend Wrap. School officials say a Huntsville student was hit by a vehicle while getting off a school bus on Wednesday. Superintendent Jay Chalk shared a statement on social media stating a student was injured after being hit while getting off the bus. The district says it's unable to share any additional details and it's unclear how serious the student's injuries are. We'll update you as we learn any new details on air and online. And now to scary video Ozark school leaders are sharing that shows a student nearly get hit by a car illegally driving past a stopped school bus. Superintendent Zane Vanderpool says this video was captured Monday afternoon. In it, you see the student walk around the front of the bus after getting off, and you see a white car fly past on the shoulder. The district wants to find out who the driver of that car is. And the superintendent is reminding drivers to watch for school buses and follow Arkansas law. Well, a set of new laws will go into effect at the beginning of January, impacting law enforcement, healthcare, and taxes. Act 948 banned state agencies from hiring, quote, unauthorized aliens. Act 708 requires anybody receiving unemployment benefits report 5 work search contacts every week. And Act 1008 removes the final portion of state grocery sales tax, though local taxes remain. Around 20 new laws in total are set to take effect. You can read a rundown of each of them on our website, 5newsonline.com. Also this week, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders announced plans for the 53rd Arkansas State Park. She signed a deal with the U.S. Forest Service to begin designating Blanchard Springs Caverns as Blanchard Springs State Park. Blanchard Springs Caverns are in north central Arkansas, about 10 miles north of Mountain View. The governor says this move will boost tourism, protect the environment, and expand outdoor recreation in the Ozarks.
There are 8.5 miles of explored caverns, a natural bridge in the cathedral room, which is more than 1,000 feet long and is anchored by a 6-story stone column. Beyond the caverns themselves, Blanchard Springs offers easy access to Sylamore Creek and the boating and fishing on the White River, swimming, hiking, biking, and camping, and is close to Mountain View and the Ozark Folk Center.
Right now, the caves at Blanchard Springs draw in nearly 70,000 visitors a year. State officials expect that number to grow now that it's being designated as an Arkansas State Park. When we come back from break, we'll tell you about the extra steps Santa is taking this year to make sure the spirit of Christmas is felt by all. Well, some holiday traditions are not always compatible for those with disabilities, but going the extra mile to include everyone makes for some special memories. CNN's Parker Brown tells us how a Santa in South Dakota did just that.
Kids who are deaf or hard of hearing experience the world and the holiday season differently. South Dakota Services for the Deaf outreach consultant Katie Jensen was born deaf, but didn't grow up signing. She's happy to see more access to Christmas events that she didn't have back then, and excited for what it can do to build them up.
So SDSD and South Dakota Drop, we love hosting events because maybe the kid is the only kid at their school that is deaf or hard of hearing. So they're able to come here and see kids that are the same and make different connections with these kids.
In the second year doing the event, staff say it's about more than taking pictures with Santa, doing crafts, sharing a meal, or having story time.
Christmas is coming soon.
It's about making the joy of the holidays accessible and letting them know that they're not alone. The kids love it.
Oh gosh, there's a list of favorite things. When I could see the kids' eyes light up when they see me signing and they just can't hardly believe it. And also, the kids would come up and sit on my lap and we would get to take a lot of different pictures. And then I would notice that the kids would come up to me again and again and again just to talk with me.
It's hard to put into words what it means for these kids to interact with Santa for the first time in their native language, and even included in reindeer games. It's why they have a signing Santa in the first place.
You know, most of the time Santas just speak, but coming here, they realize Santa can communicate with anyone, and that's why it's so magical, you know, to have that joy, that belief of Christmas.
Northwest Arkansas is welcoming back the Light the World giving machines to the Bentonville Square. The famous vending machines collect donations for items needed by local and global charities. The unwrapping was this week. Check it out.
Let's light the world. Well, the spirit of giving is important to Arkansas, to our neighbors, and to our own hearts. And so join me today with this great community in lighting the world. Thank you.
It's a unique way for the community to give back. They can select a charity of their choice. As a family unit, to be able to select something as simple as diapers and wipes for a family, to be able to share with your kids that not everyone is as blessed as you are. And it's a teaching moment for your kids, as well as just a great opportunity as a family to share together.
As we dedicate these giving machines today, may they be a beacon of hope and compassion. Let every act of giving remind us the light of the world is the truth.
Those who visit the machines can select to donate items like a meal, bedding, a bike, or a winter coat to people in need around our area. Patrons can also purchase clean water, chickens, or even fruit trees for people around the world. Items are priced anywhere between $5 to $150. Well, our vault clip of the week comes to us from Springdale on the eve of the 1980 presidential election when Ronald Reagan was campaigning against incumbent Jimmy Carter. Well, little did we know that the man we interviewed would go on to launch his own presidential campaign decades later. Roll the tapes.
You have been in office for 4 years and not one single state, and most of them have a majority of Democratic legislators, has added to the ratification or voted to ratify.
For Jeb Bush, watching the debate was more than just a spectator sport. Much of his evening was spent yelling words of praise and advice to the man on the screen, who just a few short months ago was an enemy of those in the Bush camp. Jeb and his wife saw the debate in the living room of Bill and Betty Walker, a Springdale couple who've long been active in Republican politics. After it was all over, Jeb said even his father couldn't have done a better job in holding his own with Jimmy Carter.
I love my father, and I think he's the greatest guy in the world, and I think he will be the greatest president someday. I don't think that he could have done as good a job as Governor Reagan did tonight. Governor Reagan is a master at communicating, and I think he's, of the limited political experience, he's the best I've ever seen.
Jeb's days on the campaign trail date back to May of last year when he began working for his father in the Spanish-speaking areas of Florida and in Puerto Rico. After last night's debate, he said he's sure all those long hours will pay off on Election Day. This is Philip Bruce reporting from Springdale for the News People.
Well, thank you for joining us for another Weekend Wrap. We hope you have a wonderful weekend and join us again next week.